mission. You're going to write a book. All right, so what are the important things? And in my mind, I've listed 7 or 8 topics here, but I'll be very brief. One is read. There's no substitute for reading books. So whether you're reading them in the 10th grade, or you're reading them as part of something you're doing for work, or in your leisure time or on an airplane, reading is very important. It's a lot easier now because you can do it on these pads and so forth. You don't have to carry the book around. By the way, authors love that because they really can get their production out to a lot more people by doing the virtual things, the ebooks and so forth. But when you read, you find out what you admire in other authors. Some things you admire are and I use Pat Conroy as a great example. And by the way, I've interviewed him, but Pat is a very descriptive author. He finds the right simile, the right metaphor, and he really is meticulous about doing that. Now, he passed away a few years ago, but I found his writing was, even in a novel, it was poetry from page to page, the way he handled the language. Very enjoyable author. So you understand language and you wordsmith, and so you learn the craft by reading. Second thing is find your style. I mentioned my style. I feel like as I just have a conversation with the reader. So my communication is that I'm talking to the reader through a book. I feel like it's a warmer style. But some people have more technical styles and so forth, so that's fine. But find your style. That's the heart of who you are. Make an outline. In fiction, I find that I don't do this, but a lot of people write the ending before they write the beginning. And in fiction, you really got to make characters come alive. So you describe what they look like, what they're thinking, what's in their mind, if they have a limp, or if they have flaws of not just physical, but other flaws. They're a jealous person, that you need to know that as the reader. So then when you're doing a biography, naturally you want to do that in a chronological order. You want to go from birth onward. I believe it's important as an author that you develop a range of ability. In my case, I type. I'm willing to travel. I am very familiar with photography, so I can do those things. I'm my primary editor. I feel like I'm a decent researcher. Everybody can be a great researcher with the internet. And then also in biographies, I think it's you'll find that you become a detective, that you might find a little bit of something that nobody else knows. You uncover things. I was writing about a bishop that came here in 1820, and then I decided this really doesn't tell his whole story. He was born in Cork, Ireland. I traveled to Cork, Ireland to find out more about him that people here didn't know. And sure enough, as being a detective, I found a lot that had never been published by going to the source. I think you said timeline goals. I talked about those. So if you're setting time aside to write, it's not like these things like you have to look out of a window and hear the birds singing to be able to write. You either can write or you can't. You don't need a mood. I'm one of those people that feel like once you start, you can always come back and edit, but you don't need to be in a mood to write. You need to be in a good place and a comfortable place. Quiet helps, but it's not absolutely necessary. Look at all the great writers that wrote for newspapers. There was no quiet there. So research, talked about that. The internet's your best friend when you research. But you also should find things that you wouldn't find on the internet. Old photos from families, things that you found traveling. Just tidbits of things about, say, a biography. You can find those. So it's important to research, but not just research at the desktop. Research all through. I always say that flow matters. When you write, the run-on sentences, the odd way that you set words in order can sometimes be transversed and it sounds better. So just pay attention to the flow of what you're writing so that the reader gets it. You might get it into your mind, but have written it where it's very difficult to understand. And a lot of times it could be that you wrote a sentence that should be 2 sentences. So you need to make that correction. And then lastly, and this is so important, is trust. Obviously you need to trust yourself to get the job done, but it's trusting the people around you, trusting the biography that you're doing, that person you're writing about, if they're alive, trusting your editor. Of course, we have a great relationship here with Palmetto Publishing, trusting the person that's doing your cover design, trusting everybody that you're involved with, and it could be that there are others, people you're interviewing. Make sure that you fact check people on that interview, but you have to trust that what you're putting down is factual. You don't want to make those kind of errors. So trust is very important, and I can underscore, trust your publisher, which is where you guys come in, and much appreciated.